Alright, AP students, we're back for the last little bit of the semester, and what I want to kind of focus on today particularly is our writing, our DBQs and our LEQs, because those are going to be very important parts of the AP exam coming up in about a month. And what I've been seeing in the writing doesn't necessarily concern me, as in that you won't be able to get the points. We're very close to really solidifying at least 5 to 6 points every single time on your essays, for the most part. But there are some people struggling with consistently getting 5 to 6 points on every LEQ or DBQ. So I want to kind of solidify or go back and try to scaffold that a bit, give you a little bit of framework to work off of, maybe simplify it, going back to the basics, simplifying it maybe will help us. We're probably going to do a lot more writing here in the next little bit as far as the content. The other thing I want to mention, and I'll mention it in class, and I'll mention it on other videos, and I'll mention it time and time again, this last month is going to be quick. We are going to be hitting points like this. You're not going to get everything out of class. If you think that you are, you're not. You're going to be in a bind. It's going to be book plus any videos I put up plus the lectures in class is the only way that you're going to be able to do it. Sorry, it's just the way it is. It's AP. But getting into the writing portion of this, like I said, we're probably going to really focus on this writing in the last little bit of the class, just to make sure we've got it all down. We've got all. When we get that prompt in front of us on May 5th, you'll be able to knock it out of the water. So what do I mean by this recipe? Right? How is a DBQ or LEQ a recipe? Well, we've been doing this for a while. I probably should have made this video earlier in the year, but I didn't really anticipate needing to until right here at the end, when I saw some things going a little bit wrong. But recipes are great. They're awesome. Mr. H, he loves some pumpkin pie. My mother makes the best pumpkin pie, bar none. She's kind of famous in my home county for it, at least in my extended family. They always look forward to it around Thanksgiving and Christmas time. So much so that my aunt asked my mom, how does she make it? She wanted to know it. She wanted to make it for the other side of her family. So my mom decided to show her a couple times, walked her through the process. And at the end of that process, my aunt had an amazing pumpkin pie that she was very proud of. And everybody in her family loved it. Next year, right, she went and made her own pumpkin pie, thinking that she had everything memorized that my mom had taught her. And she gets something much like this. A mess. Everything went wrong. From what she describes it, it had no flavor. It wasn't particularly sweet. She didn't remember every little step that my mom kind of led her through. And it was a complete disaster. So why am I telling you this story about pumpkin pie? Well, we've kind of done this thing time and time again. And I've probably kind of let you have a little bit more leeway than I should have. I should have probably kind of held your hand through this writing process a bit more here recently. I thought that we had gotten everything, but we need to get that recipe. If we're having a hard time getting the 7 points, we need to use the recipe. So what is this recipe I keep talking about? Alright, it is just your basic, how are you going to attack this prompt during this time period that you have, this very short amount of time to write this essay. And I think that's where there's a lot of anxiety about this essay. You know how to write. You know how to write good essays. There are a couple things that are different. We know that about AP tests. But I think a bit of it is this time crunch that you have. You start to kind of freak out about it, and you start to forget some of the things. So we've got in this last month, get you comfortable with that recipe of success. So this recipe starts with this idea of an hourglass. All right, you go in wide on the top and wide on the bottom. So why is this wide on the top, wide on the bottom? So with your thesis statement, what you're doing is you're basically taking this broad topic and you're narrowing it down to a specific statement that's going to drive the rest of your essay. It is going to explain how you're attacking this prompt. And underneath it, each one of these body paragraphs is going to have to do specific things. You're going to break that thesis up into smaller thesis statements. And this is where I'm seeing a lot of people going off the rails as far as not only their LEQs, but their DBQs. They're not taking that large thesis statement and breaking it up. So the last one was on the social and political effects of the New Deal on America. And some people just kind of went into positive and negative attributes of the New Deal, which is awesome. For another essay, the essay asked for social and political changes of the New Deal. You had best give them social and political changes of the New Deal. So how would you break that down in your body? Well, you explain specifically what changed up here in your thesis. All right, with the social changes, more Americans saw the government improving their lives. A lot of people picked up on the African American part of the documents in the DBQ, talking about how a fairer kind of employment was happening throughout the New Deal, which is correct. Other things that I think people kind of missed out on is that older Americans now saw the government as kind of a protector, securing them in their old age of having to worry about where the next meal is coming from and whether they can retire or not. Right, so those are some of the big social changes that were also there that fewer people picked up on. But that first paragraph is going to be on those social changes. So your main idea sentence, your claim sentence I call them sometimes, is going to be that part of your thesis statement. These social changes of the New Deal were bam, bam, bam. Then you give your evidence, your SF5. If this was an LEQ, you wouldn't have to cite specific documents. You would just have to hit that SF5. All right, you're going to summarize that argument in the last sentence, and then you're down to the next body paragraph. The political changes of the New Deal were 1, 2, 3. You summarize that sentence, and you're on to the next body paragraph. All right. In your conclusion, you are restating your thesis, but you're also broadening it again. All right, same type, different time. You're going to another time period and explaining how the New Deal was like progressivism. A lot of people chose progressivism. Some people chose Obama's response to the 2008 crisis, financial crisis. That's where you're bringing that synthesis in, is in that conclusion, either your second to last paragraph or your last paragraph. Right. The DBQ essay recipe is very similar to the LEQ one. In fact, we were dealing with the DBQ essay when we were kind of talking about the last one. The only thing that is different is in your DBQ essay, you must contextualize. Right? In that thesis, remember, broad, narrow, broad. All right, so you're basically describing, setting this essay in a time frame, describing what's going on in this 25 years before or after, right? Nesting it, giving this essay a place to kind of rest. That way you can kind of explain and drill down and show changes and compare things and show continuities. So contextualizing is going to be a big thing. It has to be in the same time period, either 25 years before or 25 years after. And it has to contain your thesis. Again, attacking the prompt, directly attacking the prompt. Then you're breaking that thesis statement into your main idea sentences again, breaking that big thesis into smaller thesis statements. With this one, you're hitting that document analysis and you're having to hip it out. You're having to do that extended analysis. Remember, you get credit for 4, but you need to try to do 5 or 6, because if one of the things that you try to extend an analysis on falls short, you didn't go into enough detail, or it was just outright wrong, if you had 4, one of them doesn't get the point, you don't get the point, you're marked down. If you had 6, one's out, you still have 5, you're good. But even then, at the end of that paragraph, you need to summarize that part of your argument. What I'm seeing a lot of people is they're making their points and they're just flowing into other points in the next body paragraph and flowing into points in the next body paragraph, never explaining what their argument actually is. So that's what we got to fix there. You, at all times, need to be arguing to that reader. Hey, this is my argument. Hi, hey, this is my argument. Let me remind you what my argument is again. Oh, and did you forget this is my argument? That's what you need to be doing at all times. You need to connect all that evidence back to your argument multiple times in your essay. And then at the end, in the conclusion, again, your thesis statement has to be repeated in some way. The reason for doing this is that sometimes people's thesis statements up here in their intro is way too vague. But once they've done their argumentation, their thesis statement, their conclusion is much more laser focused. So always try to put that thesis in that conclusion and then get that synthesis in there. Compare it to something. Now the other part over here to this recipe I should have already kind of talked about before. The argument development is how you're taking those documents and how those documents are interacting in your argument. Are they corroborating each other? Are you using document A and document B together to prove a point? Are you using document C and D as arguing against each other and exposing, hey, there was a conflict about the New Deal. Not everybody was on board. There were some people that were concerned that it was going to lead to communism. All right? So you got to do that too. If you want that point, you got to do it. This one is a very holistic thing. All the other things I can check off the boxes as we go down. This, I kind of got to wait until your argument's complete to see whether you developed it enough. All right. I hope this has helped you. Again, if you've been struggling, now if you've been getting 7s on your DBQ since December, this isn't directed at you. You're good. Keep doing what you're doing. If you've been struggling to get that 6, struggling to get that 7, or even struggling to get 5, you need the recipe. Follow the recipe. It ain't broke. Don't fix it. Alright? That's my advice to you, because we have a month to get this underneath our belt. This is the easiest way to do that. Alright, and I'm more than likely going to be putting a whole lot more of these videos up going through content, mainly because we are in a time crunch and I want you to get the stuff out of it, extract all the awesomeness out of this time period we're going over. World War II, all the way to the end, is jam-packed full of neat stuff. We just got to clear some time for it. And we are. Alright, have a good one.